Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of All Things Logistics. I'm Jewel Williams. Today, I'm continuing the review of the recent hearing with Department of Secretary Pete Buttigiege and the Appropriations Committee regarding the 2024 transportation budget. In this clip, Congressman Vladao of California questions about the Secretary's plan for the Central Valley region and its challenges. Let's take a look.
Due to ongoing supply chain issues, particularly at California's ports, our farmers and ranchers are struggling to get their products to foreign markets. While it's gotten a little bit better, it still continues to be a problem for us. Can you give us any update on what the DOT is doing to make these problems a little bit easier for us? And can you tell me about the coordination between the Department of Transportation and USDA as it relates to ag products facing those delays? Is there any prioritization for perishable goods?
Well, thank you for the question, and the short answer is yes, we're working closely with USDA. I would note, for example, that during the most acute periods of these backups, we were able to team up with them on helping make these what are called pop-up ports or container yards available that facilitated a more fluid movement for agricultural exports. And we recognize that while most of the supply chain stories are covered in the media in terms of electronics coming in from Asia, the issue of American goods being exported is a very important dimension of this. It's one of the reasons why we're investing so much in port infrastructure generally, and the President's budget includes a robust request on top of the advanced appropriations for PIDP. And I know that many of the applications that come in for that program would benefit the agricultural export fluidity in the long run. In the shorter run, I also appreciate the chance to mention a program of ours called FLOW, Freight Logistics Optimization Works. This is a voluntary program where we brought in a number of players from across the sector, retailers, ports, anybody who we think has data that if they were just talking to each other more, it would make our ports more efficient and our supply chains more fluid. And we've signed up a number of partners, including largely from the private sector, dozens now, and are working toward being able to have a prototype of that model up and running this year. It'll be a small dollar amount compared to most of our requests, but I think an investment well spent for exactly the reasons you're raising.
All right, that was an awesome explanation that the Secretary gave. Just to give some background on what is FLOW. I've been talking about FLOW for a couple of months now. I remember when the program came out, and I do think it is a fantastic program. FLOW stands for Freight Logistics Optimization Works. It's a pilot program that consists of several shippers and transportation carriers, rail, ocean, and trucking as well. And they've also got some 3PLs in there. So in this particular definition of FLOW, it says the Freight Logistics Optimization FLOW is a government industry partnership to exchange information between supply chain stakeholders within the United States, where U.S. DOT serves as the secure independent steward of participant information. The exchange aims to provide forward-looking and near-time international intermodal freight information for a common picture of goods movement throughout the supply chain. Participants currently include marine and surface transportation carriers, terminal operators, and warehouses. I think this is an outstanding idea because you need the information in order to be efficient. And without it, that's, I think, a big reason why the transportation, logistics, and supply chain, that this whole ecosystem is very fragmented currently right now. Although there are some players in the field that have great communication systems and they align themselves together to perpetuate a smooth transition of freight. However, you've got a lot of smaller shippers, smaller freight brokers, and smaller operations that don't have the sophistication of the information flow. And because of that, it causes the kinks in the system and the gaps in the system that need to be ironed out and improved. Looking at this, one of the participants, or some of the participants, not one, some of the participants in this group, they break them down into beneficial cargo owners, which are mostly shippers. You've got your intermodal equipment providers. You've got your 3PLs. You've got ocean carriers, marine terminal operators, basically your ports. You've got your motor carriers, which is your land. And then you've got your warehousing, real estate, logistics, and then you have your rail carriers. When I was looking at the list of beneficial cargo owners, I see Albertsons, Becton Dixon, GE Appliances, Home Depot, Land O'Lakes, Samsung, Target, The Gap, Tractor Supply, True Value, and Walmart. I find it interesting that there's no raw material type of participants in this study, meaning agriculture, like this particular congressman was speaking of. Their district, his district, the Central Valley of California, is a huge shipper of agricultural goods, and definitely needs to that group needs to be a part of that, because they are the raw material that support the Albertsons. Albertsons wouldn't have groceries if it wasn't for your agriculture. Your Home Depots wouldn't have their supplies if you didn't have the raw material guys bringing it to them. So what I see in this program is that you've got a lot of retail operations in there, yet you don't have many manufacturers. Now, GE, you can put them in the manufacturing. Land O'Lakes, you can put them in the manufacturing. Samsung as well. Yet I'm questioning how well that they have covered the gamut of commodities and industries that utilize the transportation supply chain to move their products, how well they were able to get those people into the program, and why those people didn't get into the program, because I believe that that is essential. Now, you've got people like your Walmarts who are going to go and they're going to connect with their suppliers to get on board with this program. And with that being said, this is something for you transportation providers to just really look at, that these organizations are teamed up together in this program. That means that when they open this program up, if you are not established and set up to plug and play into the flow operational processes, you're going to get left behind, because the government is not doing this to shut people out. They're doing it to improve the efficiency of the supply chain. Now, I dropped a video yesterday that talked about the security of supply chain. I'll put it right up here in this link so that you can see what I was talking about, and the importance of us having the security, but also having the power of our supply chain under control and its ebbs and flows. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody has to be on one particular system. You're going to probably have multiple systems, and they're going to feed into one big system. For example, we've got the World Wide Web. It is based on individual pieces feeding into the whole, just like social media. You've got several platforms of social media. You've got your YouTubes, you've got your Facebooks, you've got your Twitters, but they all feed into a mainframe of the web, thus allowing everybody to see and chit chat and talk. And I believe that this is the model that they're anticipating that they're going to create, where the information will flow into the central hub, and a lane will be identified that, oh, let's switch them over to here, and let's switch them over to here. And I've been taking some courses in the Excel, and I can visualize that through a software program like your Access or Excel or something like that, that you can design tables that will hold specific information and link those tables up. So that's a story for another day. I don't want to get into that right there. But I do want to pause real quick and definitely shout out and say I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and be a part of this organization, as I grow this channel, to continue to provide you with valuable information to help you in your freight and transportation business. And this information that I bring to you is to help you look ahead and see what is coming down the pipeline. What is going to possibly impact your business within the next 3, 6 months to a year? And where should you be thinking as you position yourself to be a part of these changes? Because they're coming. They're already in place and they're coming. And you don't want to be caught off guard, because that's when people start grasping for straws and sometimes lose out because they weren't paying attention to the transitioning that was happening into the environment. So we're going to continue to look at the second part of this clip. And in here, the congressman addresses the challenges that the agricultural shippers are having between the efficiencies and the trucking and business. So let's take a look at the clip a little bit more.
With the rail issue, I mean, we got to the point where we had farmers literally waiting on commodities moving across the country. I've got a large ag district, but a lot of animal agriculture, so chicken, poultry, pork, dairy, beef, waiting on corn, soy, and all the different products that come from the Midwest. And I had truckers running from mill to mill all across the valley, scrambling to get in line to pick up whatever commodity they can find. And it wasn't a simple call. It was, you had to show up with a truck, and you've got empty trucks running back and forth, tearing up roads for no purpose just because we weren't able to get those products delivered. And so this rail situation tied with the port just made life miserable for us. It's gotten a little bit better, but what can we do more?
Yeah, we've been pressing the railroad industry on this, but I believe there's also a public sector role to play that you'll see reflected in the budget request, especially around areas like the CRISI grant program, which we think can contribute to fluidity both in traditional freight rail and in some of these multimodal contexts that require specialized equipment and facilities that can make a big difference in the kinds of contexts that you're describing. Also, I would point to the fact that in addition to being consumers of rail, agriculture producers are more likely to live in communities that are impacted just by quality of life issues like blocked crossings and the safety issues that come with a lot of grade crossings. That's why we're very glad there's a rail crossing elimination program included in IIJA, and have been able to use some of our other programs as well to help support projects that would just reduce some of the occasions for that kind of blockage to happen in the first place.
So as you can see, there is a lot of good things on the minds of our government. And I'm glad they are addressing these particular topics because they are impacting our food cost. I mean, I thought it was interesting that the congressman brought up the fact that the inefficiencies that were happening between the rails and the ports, and how truckers, as he says, were driving from one place to the next, empty, scrambling, trying to figure out what was what, and burning fuel. That was something that stuck in my mind right there. Burning fuel. Fuel is too expensive right now. Cost is too expensive, and the spot rate market is very soft. So I do question who is running those operations. What are those brokers, dispatchers, fleet managers, organizations that are part of this particular process? Are they thinking about how to make this more efficient? Are they asking the right questions? Are they seeking information? Are they finding ways to improve this flow? If they're not, call me. I got you. But definitely, it's important to address these situations because it impacts the cost of food going into the grocery store. As he said, his district is heavy in agriculture and farming. So that means a majority of the food in his district is flowing out into our economy, and the pricing obviously is being impacted. So one of the things I thought was interesting that the secretary brought up was funding, and I found a a website that talks about the funding. It's the U.S. Department of Transportation. And I'm going to go through this because I'm curious as to how these programs may be beneficial for freight and transportation organizations like myself, like you, who are out here doing the day-to-day, and find out if there's anything to help truck drivers. You know, as I was looking through some of this, you know, I was thinking about the bottom line of the owner operator, and what is that looking like right now? And I know a lot of owner operators are struggling. They're having a hard time finding freight. They're having a hard time getting good rates for moving freight. And some of that is due to what is happening with the rails and the ports. Now, I mentioned before in another video with JB Hunt, I'll put the link for that video right up here. And in that video, I talk about how JB Hunt is maximizing its use of the rail to move freight from the ports to the final destination using the rail because it's cheaper. So if you start to put these pieces of the puzzle together, you'll see this trend that is slowly migrating itself throughout the transportation system, which is one, transportation companies for the ground are trying to cut costs, lower emissions, so they're utilizing the rail system. Now you're thinking, well, the rail is jacked up, it's having all these problems. Not all of them, but there are some of them. Now, you've heard of Norfolk Southern, I think, is one that's had a couple of accidents. However, I want you to think about the money that is flowing into those rails. There are grants that are there to help those rails improve safety and improve the flow of freight. In other words, they're incentivizing them to get this together. And the reason why is because they have done the math to see that it can lower the cost overall of the goods that are going into the stores for you and I to buy. So these are the things that are happening right now that are, I'd like to call them the undercurrents of freight. The undercurrent that is happening, a lot of people aren't feeling that bump up in those waves. They're kind of like coasting through. They know something's happening. They're not sure. They don't know where to point their compass in order to stay in line and stay on track with what is happening in the season. And that is going to be a game changer. It's going to be the competitive advantage that puts some freight companies out of the business and keeps some of them in the business. These changes are happening as we speak. So I'm glad to know that these issues are at the forefront of our government. And the question that still remains, how fast can these gaps in the logistics workflow be addressed and solved using sustainable operations and strategies? That's my question. I want to thank you for watching. And I want you to definitely subscribe to my channel, share this information with somebody that can benefit so that they can start making the changes in their businesses so they can stay in business and continue to make money. The money is there. This is $1 trillion industry. The money is there, but you got to know how to be strategic and guide your organization so that it can continue to stay afloat. Also, my goal is to continue to bring you information like this. Subscribing to my channel can help me grow so that I can continue to help you grow, because I want to continue to do the research, find the information, and bring it to you so that you can be successful. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'm going to catch you on the next video. Have an awesome day.